Hi, welcome to this Excel tutorial video. Today we're looking at creating a custom data entry form. This video was recorded in April 2021 using Excel 365. So in the previous video we've looked at creating a data entry form using Excel's own out-the-box option. This time we're going to look at creating our own, and kind of the bonus of doing that is we've got a bit more control of the look and feel of it. We can add our own data validation, we can add things in there that we can kind of customize it to exactly as we want it. So we're going to create a basic one today. We're going to use quite a bit of VBA. I'm going to reference a few videos that I've done before. So I will add links to the description if I reference any videos, and also I'll add snippets of the code that I use during this example. So let's get to it. On screen I've got a basic worksheet with 3 columns, and I'm going to create a form that allows me to add text in the form, press a button, and the text gets put into the columns in the rows. So to begin with, we need to go to our developer tab. Now, if you don't have a developer tab, I did do a video about the developer tab and how you can show the developer tab and what it's used for, so I'll put a link to that. So click the developer tab, click on Visual Basic, and we get this new window open. So this window is the VBA window. VBA, Visual Basic for applications. I've done a couple of videos on that which I'll add links for. If you haven't seen this before, if you haven't looked at the VBA window before, then maybe stop this one and go and look at a couple of the other videos, the introduction to VBA, because that gives a bit more of a like an overview of it, whereas this is going to assume that you've got some knowledge, this video. So in here, just briefly then, we've got a toolbar here, we've got a main section here, the left hand side we've got a tree view, and then we've got a properties pane. What we need to do to create our form is we locate this drop down here and we click user form, and that will create us our first user form. There's our user form here on screen. We've also got a toolbox next to it, and that toolbox is always present if you select the user form, and that gives you the options of the controls that you might want to add onto a user form. The bottom left now we've got properties, and the properties is for the user form because we've got the user form selected. One important property, and a property that will be changing throughout this demonstration, is the name property. So the name is how an object is referenced, or how a control is referenced. It's fine, user form 1 is the default, but when we want to reference user form 1, if we've got more than one form, then I want to know which kind of form I'm referencing, so I want to name it properly. So when we're doing our names, it's better to prefix the name with the type of control that it is. So I'm going to create prefixes for the USF as for user form, and then I'm going to call it data entry. So that's fine. We'll see the use of that in a minute. Also, now there's a caption here, which is the text at the top left of the form. So if I just change that to be data entry, you'll see that the text is changing as I'm typing. And there's a lot of options in here to do with colours, background colours, that sort of thing. But just for now, we're going to work on the caption and the name. Now let's click on the form again. That toolbox will appear, and let's start adding some controls to our toolbox. So what we want is we want a text box and a label box for each of our 3 rows. So simply click on one of these and drag it across. So you just a note, if you hover over one of these controls, a little tooltip pops up to say what the control is. So that was a label that I've dragged on. This is a text box, so I click on the text box and I drag it across, and you've got this kind of snap to grid feature that helps you line things up. So now I've got a label and I've got a text box, and let's imagine this is for the first name column. So let me just click on that. I want to change the name of my label to be LBL because it's a label, first name. And I'm going to change the caption to say first name, and you'll see now that the text in my label has changed. And then I'm going to highlight my text box by just clicking on it, and I'm going to change the name to be TXT, first name. You can highlight an object just by clicking on it. If you press shift and click on another one, you'll highlight a second one. It works for as many controls as you want, but also if you select somewhere else in the form and hold the shift key, hold your left mouse button, you get this selection pane pop up, and you can resize it to cover all of the controls that you want to select. And then when you release your mouse button, it will select all the controls within that. Now, something to note is you don't need to fully highlight a control. So there I've highlighted the text box, but I haven't fully highlighted the label. But when I release it, it's grabbed both controls because the little pane there was touching both controls. It's highlighting them both. So I'm going to use that actually. I'm going to highlight these two. I'm going to copy and paste. And then when you've got something selected, one or more control, if you hover over the line, not the handles, but over the line here, you can then resize it by, not resize it, you can move it rather, reposition it. Copy and paste, I'll do the same here. Drag it into position. And now I need to change the name for each of these labels. So this is LBL last name. Now the name, you can't have spaces in the name text. You can in the caption in the text fields, but not in the name. The name's got to be all one word. So here, using the same rules, all one word. And also, if I tried to rename that to be the name of an object that already existed, I would get a message saying you can't do that. In fact, I'll just show you an example. If I do that as last name, it'll say, hold on, you can't do that. Okay, fine. I didn't want to anyway. I want it to be LBL job. And I'll rename this text box to be TXT job. Okay, so we're looking pretty good there. We've got our 3 fields that we want to be able to complete. Now what we want is a button that allows us to actually perform the action. So let's hover over this control here called a command button. Let's drag it over here, and we'll call it CMD because it's a command button, and we'll call it add, and we'll change the caption on it to be add. And I'm going to drag another one across, and we'll call this CMD exit, and we're going to say exit form. Now, when you highlight one or more controls, each control will have this little the little handles, and that includes text boxes, labels, combo buttons, but also the form itself. So you've got edges and you've got little handles on the corners and halfway along the edges, which means you can resize things. So let's just resize this form a little bit. And also, I don't want these buttons touching, so I'm going to make them a little bit narrow and pull them in one click. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We can see how our form looks if we just press the play button while the form is kind of in view. If we press play, there's our form. Data entry, nice and simple. If I press the X, it will take us back. Because we're in the middle of the VBA kind of process, it will take us back to this screen. Now what we want to do is add logic in order to take the data from these 3 cells and put them into Excel. So to begin with, if you double click one of the controls, it will take you to the code element of the form. So if I double click this button here, it takes me here to the code element, and it creates me a procedure. And this procedure is called CMD add _ click, and it's an event. It's called an event, and what it means is whenever you click CMD add, I will do whatever code is within this procedure. I've got a second one down here because I accidentally double clicked the form earlier on in the demonstration. I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. But I do want an event. When I click add, I want it to insert my data into my spreadsheet. That's exactly what I want it to do. So CMD add _ click as an event, perfect. I'm going to write some code in here that will put text from my first text box into the first name fields. So let's just do that now. And the way syntactically we do that is we say range A2, which is the cell that we want, dot, and this is a bit of a strange one, this formula R1C1 is the option to use when you are going to assign a value to a cell. A little bit odd, but that's what it is. And then we'll say equals, and then we'll reference our text box. So it was called txt first name. If I do txtf, if I do control and space, it will go away and try and find what I'm meaning. And txtf, there is something called txt first name, so it says, do you mean this? I do. Put a dot, and then it says what element, what part of that text box do you want to put in the cell? Well, I want to put the text of my text box in the cell. So let's go back to our form. Let us press play, and let us just test that. Test, oops. If I press add, it should take the value from in here and put it into there. Perfect. If I change that, good. We haven't done anything else, so nothing should appear in there because we haven't added that yet, but that is working fine. So let's just close that. Let's just finish it off. Let us, a little lazy, but for speed, I'm just going to copy them two, and we'll just change that to be B, C, and instead of this being first name, this is going to be last name, and this is going to be job. Now then, just as something to kind of keep an eye on, the name of our third text box is txt job with a capital J. I've put a little j there. When I move away from this line, if Excel is happy, it will fix the capitalization of any controls that I'm referencing. So if I press enter, you'll see the J has gone to a capital J because it knows what that is. If it wasn't recognized and I did an enter, I would get, it doesn't fix anything there. So, and when you try and run it, you'll get an error anyway. But anyway, so if I just put that back as job, it knows what txt job is. Let's go back to our form and play it. So that little play button. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Now the only problem with that is we're only referencing the second row. That's not really what we want to do. We want to put it, if that's filled in, we want to put the next set of data in the row below. Okay, so we can do that. So let's just close this down for a second. Let's go back to our code by double clicking on that. So now what we need to do is we need to, instead of it saying 2 every time, we need it to work out what the next blank row is. And there's a way of doing that. So first of all, I'm going to declare a variable. When it comes to naming variables, you're better off prefixing the name with some sort of reference to its data type. So either I or int, because it is an integer that I'm going to create here. And I'm going to call it next blank because it's going to return for me the row that is the next blank row. And it is an integer. So that's how we declare a variable. And then we're going to assign our variable. We're going to say int. Now I've started typing what Excel should recognize. So if I do control and space, it says, oh yeah, do we int next blank? I do. And then we say equals. Now this is a bit of typing going on here, but I'll type it and then we can talk about it in a second. So that should work, and those little bits and pieces have been capitalized like I was expecting. So what that's doing is it's saying, all right, in my sheet 1, go to the very bottom row and then go up. And when you go xlUp, it takes you up to the row that has, to the next row that has data. So it's going to go all the way down to row 100,000, whatever, or 1 point something million. Then it's going to go xlUp, and it's going to go up to row 2. Because that's the next row that has data. And then just a little mathematical formula at the end to say +1. So 2 + 1 is 3. So this value should equal 3, which is our blank value. And then we can change our reference here to A2 to be, instead of A2, we're going to say A, which is the column we want, but also int the result of our variable. So that should be A3, and then this should be A3, and this should be A3. Now, if I execute that, let's put 1, 2, and 3 in again. We choose add, and that goes there. And let's just choose so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to close this now. Let's go back up to here. So excuse me, what we want to do now is we want to add some sort of logic to close this form. So if I double click on that, it now says, all right, for our command button, our exit button, click for the click event. We're just going to say me.hide. So if I run this and choose, well, in fact, I'm not going to put any data in just now. I'm just going to click that. It exits. And because we're in the middle of playing with VBA, it takes us back to this window here, but generally it won't do that. So the last thing we want, if we close this window down now, we don't have access to that form at the minute. So what we want to do is we want some sort of way of accessing that form in order for us to make our changes and for the data to be added. So let's go back to our Visual Basic. So we've got our user form. Now we're going to click on this little drop down here and we're going to create a module. And a module is just somewhere where you can put some data. And I'm going to create a procedure called open form. And my procedure is going to be, so the name of our form, which is user form data entry dot show. And the reason we put it in this, sorry, just one, I'll tell you what that message was in a second. But the reason we put that in a, sorry, I'll explain all that in just a jiffy. The reason we put that in a module is because when it's within a module, it's accessible by Excel itself. Because when it's in as part of a form, when you're assigning macros to things within Excel, it won't recognize procedures within a form. So I'm going to create a module and create this open form here. So now I've created that. If I go to my it's insert, illustrations, shapes, and again I've done this in a previous video, but if I go down to this bevel here, if I create this button, and the purpose of this button is simply to execute a macro. So if I assign a macro, I should now see there's my open form which I created. So now I can hover over that, my little cursor changes to a hand, I can click on that, I can add my data, add, and I can close it. And then I can open it and I can close it. We're not going to go any further. There's a few things that I want to do on the back of this. So there's a few kind of clearing down those things when it opens, certain bits of validation and stuff. Just as a very quick example, that's pretty much the end of the video. Just to say one more thing. The reason I got that message pop up before, and something that we need to know. I don't know whether you can kind of see in this yellow bar here, but when you start creating forms and using VBA, all of a sudden your Excel spreadsheet is called a macro enabled Excel spreadsheet. So you can't save it as XLSX anymore. It's got to be XLSN. So in order to do this, you've got to do a save as. So if I do file and save as, and here in the drop down here we've got options. One of them is macro enabled. Click OK, click save, and then that should sort everything out. So now you can close this because if you didn't do that and you tried to save it as a standard Excel worksheet, it would lose all of your VBA. That's the end of this video. If you found it helpful, if you've got any comments, please give me a thumbs up. Please give me some sort of feedback, because it helps me in my content. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it helpful.